Week 2 waiver wire. Let's get it started. Do you have questions at quarterback? Don't worry, I got you. Baker Mayfield. He balled out last week. He was quarterback 2, and you can find him in 68% of leagues. He had 4 touchdowns. It was against the Washington Commanders, but he had 4. Now he gets to go up against the Detroit Lions. I think this is going to be a solid matchup. I think he's worth a start. Matthew Stafford's next up. He didn't play great when he went back to Detroit, but now he gets to face the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not concerned with that defense. Matthew Stafford should be able to have a good game. And this next guy is probably rostered, but it's worth a check. Jared Goff. Goff was rough last week, so a lot of people are probably going to be dropping him. No, you should definitely be checking to see who's dropped after the waivers clear. But I like Jared Goff against my Buccaneers. He's at home, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta didn't really have the performances they'd like to have last week. I think they make up for it this week against my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unfortunately. Moving on to running backs. Are you having a rough time with running backs? Don't worry, I got you. Jordan Mason, a surprise ad after Christian McCaffrey missed week 1. If he plays in week 2, he's definitely worth an ad. The 49ers are clearly not afraid to use him. They rushed him 28 times for 147 yards and a touchdown. Wild. Must add. This next guy's a little more rostered, but definitely worth a look. J.K. Dobbins. He popped off this week against the Raiders. He had 10 carries for 135 yards and a touchdown. Plus, he had 3 receptions. He had a few breakaway runs that were nice until he got caught. But I was impressed with what I saw. He finished 4th last week. After Dobbins, it drops off a bit. Not an opportunity, but definitely in production. Tank Bigsby. They really did it. They are splitting carries between Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne Jr. They both had 12 carries. Bigsby got more yards. Now, Etienne got the touchdown, but he also fumbled. If Bigsby's going to be this involved in the offense, he's worth a bench spot. Some other running backs I like, Bucky Irving. Looks like he's going to get involved in this offense. He had 9 carries for 62 yards. Plus, he had 2 receptions for 14 yards. He was good in the receiving game in college, and I think the Bucs utilize him that way as well. Some flyers I like in some deeper leagues. Alexander Madison, looks like he's getting the receiving work. Had a nice catch and run for a touchdown. Jaleel McLaughlin also got involved in the receiving game, had 5 receptions and 10 carries. Only had 27 yards, but 5 receptions, something to look into. Justice Hill had 6 receptions. This was more game dependent. Really only going to be useful when the Baltimore Ravens are down, because when they're up, it's Derrick Henry time. And Jaden Wright didn't play, but I'm hearing that Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert were slightly banged up. I don't know if they'll miss time, but if they do, I think they're going to want to get the rookie involved. Maybe worth a stash. And on that note, Zach Charbonnet got some extra run at the end of that Seahawks game. Kenneth Walker got banged up. I believe it was an abdominal injury. But if he misses time, Zach Charbonnet is going to be that dude for this team. And I think they want to run the ball. Zach Charbonnet had a nice touchdown catch. Pretty solid. I only really want to use him if the starter goes down. It's actually the same thing for the last 4 guys. Alexander Madison, Jaleel McLaughlin, Jaden Wright, and Justice Hill. I really only want to use those guys if the starter goes down. They are getting PPR work. If you're looking for 7 to 10 points, they might be your guy, but they have very limited upside with the starter still intact. Are you weak at wide receiver? Don't worry, I got you. I can't believe I'm saying it this early, but Brandon Cooks. Some of the people on this list are here due to injury, and I think Brandon Cooks is one of those. Don't get me wrong, he played well this week, but Jake Ferguson just went down, and I don't know how long he's going to be down for. And Cook had 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. I think he gets some more targets, and 7 targets is pretty good. On a Dallas Cowboys offense that should be good, you could do worse. Next up, Demarcus Robinson, another one that's here, mainly due to injury. Puka Nacua went down last week, and I don't know how long he's going to be out. I think Robinson has a chance to be the next man up. Now, he had 7 targets for 4 receptions for 42 yards, but I think he's going to get more involved if Puka Nacua is out. Puka Nacua left the game last week in a cart. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I think he's worth a grab. Next up, Wan'Dale Robinson, who got a surprising amount of targets last week. My man had 12 targets. Now, he only turned that into 6 catches, but clearly Daniel Jones is aiming for him. Now Daniel Jones doesn't have very good aim, so the targets are probably not good. But 12 targets is a lot of targets. He was tied for the second most targets in the league last week. That's outrageous. Definitely worth the grab and stash. Khalil Shakir is interesting. He caught all 3 of his targets for 32 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, he plays for the Buffalo Bills, but the target distribution on this team has not really been decided. Keon Coleman led with 5, but Shakir ended up with the touchdown, and he went 3 for 3. Not bad. Greg Dortch had the second most targets for Arizona last week. Not quite sure why Marvin Harrison didn't have more, but Greg seems to be a clear target for Kyler Murray. Might be worth a grab. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 47 yards. That's a solid 10 points for you. Next up, Andre Yosivas. I hope I'm saying that right. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. He was tied for the leader in targets for this team. Hamstring injuries tend to linger. He could be the wide receiver 2 for Joe Burrow. That's pretty solid. Now, he had 6 targets, but so did Jamar Chase. A couple of boom-bust flyers that I like. Rashid Shaheed. Derek Carr just seems to like this guy. I don't know what his connection is with him and why he doesn't have it with Chris Olave, but he seems to like him because he finds him for deep touchdowns. Only 3 receptions, but 73 yards and a touchdown. If you're looking for somebody boom or bust, this might be your guy. Speaking of boom or bust that I don't trust on a weekly basis, Alec Pierce. Unbelievable pass from Anthony Richardson to get him that deep touchdown. That was wild. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a look. He had a 60-yard bomb touchdown, which was an unbelievable throw and a good catch down the field. I don't think that's going to happen every week, but when you need a boom or bust player, this is one of your guys. Are you having a tough time at tight end? Don't worry, I got you. Isaiah Likely is number 1 on my list. This dude was an absolute beast against the Chiefs. It was unbelievable. Do I think this continues? Nah, they did a really good job of guarding Mark Andrews. It was honestly impressive. But do I think he's worth an ad? Absolutely. They don't have receivers. This is a big body dude that runs like a wide receiver, regardless if Mark Andrews is involved or not. Isaiah Likely clearly has something. He should be on your team. I don't think he's worth a fab dump, personally, because I don't think this volume or this production continues. I mean, how could it? My man had 12 targets, 9 receptions, 111 yards and a touchdown on primetime TV. He was the tight end 1. That is crazy. What's also crazy is I traded for him right before the game. That felt great. I'll get into that later. Story for another day. Next up, Kobe Parkinson. With Tyler Higbee being out, Puka Nacua being out, they need people to throw the ball to, and they like to use their tight end. Kobe Parkinson is the next man up, and he was solid for a tight end. 4 receptions, 47 yards. No reason why he can't repeat that or fall into the end zone. Solid grab. And you're probably not going to have to use a lot of fab to get him. A lot of people aren't really out here searching for Kobe Parkinson. That being said, there are a decent amount of injuries to the tight end position. Jake Ferguson's banged up. Obviously, TJ Hawkins is on IR. David Njoku's a beast, but he also got banged up. There are a decent amount of people that are going to be on your waiver wire trying to get tight ends, and I think they're going after Likely. I don't think a lot of people are going to be going after old Kobe Parkinson. Are you desperate for a defense? Don't worry, I got you. The Los Angeles Chargers. Word of advice, when you're looking at defenses, look at who they're playing. They're playing the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers absolutely suck. Start your defenses against the Panthers. You're going to hear that all season. I mean, enough said. They're playing the Panthers. Start them. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles. Only 39% rostered. People are probably going to drop them this week if they do have them and not look at next week's matchup. Going up against the Atlanta Falcons, which just got destroyed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers didn't score a single touchdown, and they beat them by 5. That's embarrassing. Kirk Cousins doesn't look right. They didn't play in the preseason, so they're not flowing right either. Messing up snaps, fumbles. I think the Eagles can do a little something against Atlanta. And lastly, if you're desperate, and I say if you're desperate because this is a little more risky, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They play the Cleveland Browns, who were terrible last week, but they were going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Jaguars aren't the Cowboys. But I think you can get a couple turnovers, and unless Deshaun Watson reverts back to Houston Deshaun Watson, I think they could be pretty solid. But I don't know why. Deshaun Watson makes me a little nervous. Like he could just pop out and be pretty good out of nowhere. Their defense is incredible. Could put them in plus position. So I'm not in love with this Jaguars pick, but if you're looking for people that aren't rostered and everybody else is, they might be aight. And a word of advice for anybody on the waiver wire. Please Look at who was dropped. Your league mates drop players they shouldn't drop all the time. And I know you're sitting there saying, not in my league, bro. I play in a 12-team serious league. So do I. A bunch of them. And people make weird decisions. Sometimes because you have to. Sometimes because you underestimate how good a player is. Sometimes people rage quit and drop people. After the waivers run, always, and I mean always, check to see who was dropped. Tip number 2 for the waiver wire. This tip is only for real hardcore fantasy football players. If you're a casual, keep scrolling. You're not gonna wanna do this and you're gonna say I'm crazy. That's fine. Maybe I am a little crazy. Crazy for championships! Find out what time your waivers run. A lot of them run Wednesday morning real early. Set an alarm. Wake up and check to see who was picked up and who was not picked up. Because your league mates will miss people. It's very, very common with defenses, but it's also common with people that aren't talked about on every waiver wire show at the top of the list. There are players that people are not gonna wanna use their waiver position on. And they'll be like, oh, I'll grab them in the morning. That's where you come in. You grab them before anybody wakes up. I set an alarm. Wake up, scroll the waiver wire, and yoink up all of the leftovers before your league mates have a chance to get it. Just a little advanced advice from an expert. I've been there, done that. Been doing this for 15 years. You'd be surprised at what you find. Don't be one of those not in my league people. Check. Especially if you have a person out there and you don't want to use your waiver priority on. Because the last thing you want is for one of your league mates to get up before you because they got to go to work and they're just scrolling the waivers and just grab all your players that you want. You be that person. I have a lot more videos coming to you. I want to talk about news, injuries, what I thought about the games last week, predictions for next week, love, hate. There's so many videos coming your way. Once they're up, they'll be right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. I'll be here all year, helping you win a championship. Good luck on the waiver wire. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.